let's talk about a little Oppenheimer here.
Now, the interesting thing about Oppenheimer.
Who here has seen Oppenheimer?
I haven't seen it.
And did you see it on film or did you see it on digital?
I saw it on film. So I have seen seen Oppenheimer, and we're going to talk about it. So real quick, on film. I saw it at the Universal City Walk AMC, which is one of the best, probably the best IMAX screen in the Los Angeles area, okay? Great screen, amazing. It was in 70 millimeter. And I predicted something would happen during a screening of this film, and it absolutely happened. Of course, the screening started a little bit late, okay, but that's normal that's normal for a press screening. 10 minutes into the film, something happened and it went dark. And when the film started, there was hair in the gate. This is something we have not seen for years. You probably don't remember the last time you saw hair in a gate, because everything is digital. All movie theaters are digital, and movies come on hard drives called DCP drives, which are very particular type of hard drive to be able to screen the film. As it broke, something happened in the projection booth. And I'm telling you, this is probably you're going to hear this happening a lot, because you took all these projectionists who were very skilled. It's a very specific skill to be able to successfully project a screen at a film at a movie theater and screen it properly. Okay. And this is what Christopher Nolan wants. He wants you to see it on film, and in particular 70 millimeter if you can. So something happened, the lights came on, the screen went dark, whatever, and it was 30 minutes to fix it. I have no idea what was going on. And they were saying, please don't leave. We are going to fix it. But they did admit they had a backup DCP in case they couldn't get the 70 millimeter working. So all I can say is expect this to happen probably more often than not, because all the people who are skilled in projecting film, they're not working for movie theaters now. So this is going to present some problems. I think you may or may not, when you go to see the movie, you may or may not be seeing it on film, because my feeling is that these prints and who knows, maybe it's a marketing thing, but them admitting that there's a backup DCP means, what I believe is that a lot of people are going to be seeing this digital and may or may not be aware that they are. In any case, let's go beyond that. Okay. This film has a problem that I believe I've talked about quite often, which is it's too long. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes, and the movie is effectively 3 parts. There's 3 chunks. At the beginning of the film, you meet Oppenheimer, and you get sort of his personal backstory. He was involved with a woman who was a communist, played by Florence Pugh. This is all true. He was not, in fact, a communist himself, but he had affiliations with people who were. And this is a big part of the first third of the film. He is a brilliant scientist that also is tortured by these visions of an invisible world. What is that invisible world? The invisible world of atoms. And you actually see this in his head. He's actually losing sleep. It's the most, in terms of a Christopher Nolan movie, Christopher Nolan's never particularly surreal. And surrealism, Christopher Nolan has always played with time, right? When you look at Dunkirk and other films, he plays with time in his movies. And I feel like he almost goes out of his way to let you know he's very, very smart. I don't know that you always need to do that, right? But there's a surrealist nature of this film where you see the visions in Oppenheimer's head. Some of these visions actually happen so he's in a real life situation, but the vision actually manifests itself physically in the real world. And by the way, I'm not going to talk spoilers at all about the film, because Alan hasn't seen it. Dante hasn't seen it.
Yeah. I don't know if he makes that bomb or not.
Yeah.
And do the Nazis get it? Don't spoil it, please.
But I'm going to get to that. So we will have a deeper discussion next week after you've had the opportunity to see it, Alan, and we'll have a spoiler discussion next Friday. Yeah. And then by then, I'm sure most of you will have had an opportunity to see it. So the first hour is Oppenheimer's personal backstory, which is, in my opinion, most of that you could have done in much shorter time. I did check my watch a couple times in the film, and the first hour is the backstory. The movie gets really good when Matt Damon enters the picture. Matt Damon does a scene, his character is introduced, he's basically recruiting Oppenheimer to be a part of this program to develop the bomb. That scene knocked it out of the park. So the dialogue, Matt Damon's sort of back and forth with Cillian Murphy, fantastic. I feel like I was like, where's this movie going with all this? Do I need all the personal backstory of Oppenheimer's? I mean, look, he was a philanderer, okay? He slept around a lot. He was married and then cheated and did all this stuff. And okay, so that's the first part. Once Matt Damon enters the picture, to me, the movie started when Matt Damon entered the picture. That's when it gets really interesting. Of course, they create this town with all of these scientists. They have to recruit scientists to actually come there and live with their families. That whole thing is amazing. That middle hour of the film about the bomb, absolutely incredible. Leading up to, obviously, it leads up to the detonation of a bomb. This is all in the trailers. And that part, I'm so glad I did see it in IMAX 70 millimeter. That part is so well done because one, we know that Christopher Nolan is not a fan of digital effects. He prefers to do, not only is he not a fan of digital effects, he's not a fan of doing ADR. ADR is additional dialogue recording. So almost every Star Wars movie you see, because it's so loud on the set, they re-record the dialogue after. And IMAX cameras are loud. So they've got to be contained in these giant boxes so that they're quiet and you're actually hearing the real dialogue as spoken on the set. I love this attention to detail for Christopher Nolan. I was even unaware that films like The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, he uses these things called bigatures. They're like large-size miniatures. He prefers to do effects in camera, practical effects, only ever use digital as a last resort because there's no other way to achieve an effect. I love that aspect of it. And all the things with building the bomb, they talk about like they're mining this plutonium. Should they do a certain type of bomb? And it's represented by these marbles in a jar. There's sort of, it's just hard to process the material to make the bomb. That's a slow process as they're even trying to figure out how to the different ways that this bomb could be lit off, all of that they go into. I'm saying I like the scientific aspects of the film. Love the whole science aspects. The other thing that I'll point out is my first thought walking out of the movie was that is the most actors chewing the most scenery I've ever seen in a movie. There are so many, I mean, after a while it got kind of ridiculous, like bit parts, and you'll see, oh, there's Oscar winner Rami Malek. Oh, there's Benny Safdie as a scientist. Oh, there are so many actors in this film that are Oscar caliber actors. They've either been nominated for Oscars or that it almost got distracting after a while. Like, who did everyone just call Christopher Nolan and say, could you just please put me in this movie? A little bit distracting. I would have almost preferred character actors than well-known actors, but it is what it is. Cillian Murphy is amazing in the film. As you build up to the bomb being lit off, this is not a spoiler. It's
in history. Yes,
it's in history. You can look it up. That stuff. It was so quiet in the room, and the theater shook. So be sure to see it in premium format. You have to see that. So that middle part is like the best part of the film is the middle part. The last third of the film, because I'm like, okay, we're a little over 2 hours in. The bomb is, where does this movie go? Then it goes into conversations, and I was unaware of this. They almost didn't need to use the bomb. It was going to end the war with Japan, and they were debating about which cities should they bomb, and Oppenheimer was a part of those conversations. And they specifically didn't want to bomb Kyoto because someone honeymooned there and for its historical and cultural significance. They were looking for, and they were looking for America to basically demonstrate this as its might. And you see that this all weighs not just on Oppenheimer, but on the scientists. That scene alone is when he realizes what he's done, what he's unleashed on the world. There's this surrealist moment where gives the speech in front of the scientists, basically congratulating all of them for the success of the movie or success of the the bomb, and they've got all these American flags there, and you see in Oppenheimer's head, he's just having this out-of-body experience that, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? And then the last third of the film is about not just him dealing with his guilt, but also this kind of kangaroo court, because he became the father of the atomic age, and a secret committee is trying to discredit him. I don't want to go into details about that. Robert Downey Jr., his character, is a big part of it, so I'm speaking in broad strokes here. I just felt that the movie is too long. Now, it's going to turn people off, and I feel like it's such an exhausting physical experience to get through the film. I almost feel like I want to see it a second time before I render like a full verdict of it, because it's this incredible, masterful middle part of the film, bookended by two parts that I believe are flawed or could have been told shorter. And if the point is to make a statement about our current nuclear age, I feel like Christopher Nolan might have been better served by a shorter running time and something that appealed on a more mainstream, broad basis. So I can't give you, I'll tell you this. I recommend seeing it. I plan on seeing it a second time. I don't want to throw a number rating on it. I think that's kind of trivial for a film that I think is worthy of more discussion. I'd like to see it a second time, and I want to talk to Alan. But you're in for an experience, and that's what I'll say. But I do believe this film is flawed, and I think the big flaw is running time. The running time is going to turn people off. If you want to make a statement that appeals to a large number of people, I hate to say this, he could have made a more commercial movie, and that's all I'll say on that. And any thoughts based on?
Is this an awards movie?
That's the other thing I wanted to point out too. The other thing about this film is, we're seeing this movie in July when we've seen all this sort of nonsense, Transformers, The Flash, all this stuff. And this movie should have come out in November. This movie should have come out in November. This is an awards movie. This is not a summer movie. Hey, it's the summer. Want to go see Oppenheimer? It's 3 hours and 15 minutes. I feel like dropping this in the middle of the summer, and then Nolan, there's these dictates. It can't be on digital for 100 days. It's got to play in theaters for a certain number of days. It's being released by Universal. They cannot release any other movies for the next 100 days. So it's got this theatrical window of 100 days to play in theaters. So at some point, you're going to find the time to go see it. I just think this movie would have been better to be released in the fall. When more serious films, I think people are kind of ready for that. I do think the summer is kind of like, let's see mindless entertainment. Let's have fun. I think it's going to hurt it. I have no idea how well box office it's going to do. I know it's not going to beat Barbie at all, but I do think it's going to resonate and have legs, mainly because of this theatrical focus. What are your guys' thoughts on?
I think it's kind of hard to say because maybe it's genius to release a film like this right now because of all the fluff. Maybe, dropping a movie with substance is probably a good idea.
Maybe he knew the strike was coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I mean, look at what's that movie? Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom. I mean, that's a heavy movie. That's a heavy ass movie, and it's doing very well in the box office right now. So,
but I'll just say to Sound of Freedom, Oppenheimer. Okay, two movies that are trying to make statements about our world, right? Mm-hmm. One about child sex slavery and trafficking. The other one about the age we live in, the bomb, and the fact that we've entrusted the ability to destroy ourselves with moronic politicians. The movie definitely points out that a lot of these politicians are complete morons that now have been given these gifts and these tools by scientists that now feel guilty for having created them. So that's part of it. But Sound of Freedom is, I'll say, under 2 hours.
Sure.
I don't want to say it's entertaining necessarily, but it is an white knuckle, edge of your seat thriller film that makes a point, and I think its point is stronger in the sense that it made that point in its under 2 hour running time, and I think that's important.
I should correct you. It is over 2 hours. It's 2:15.
2:15.
Because we were saying it's the same length. It's the same length as The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, exactly. The Little Mermaid.
I agree. Tonally, they're very different movies. Runtime is a big deal. I mean, that is a big difference.
What I'm saying is Sound of Freedom made its point better than Oppenheimer did. And I think Sound of Freedom will resonate more than Oppenheimer.
No,
because I do believe that and you've seen the box office, Sound of Freedom just crossed $100 million.
Yeah.
This is a word of mouth. They're not running TV ads during, sporting events. This is a word of mouth movie that is resonating with people. It's resonating a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so Disney had a movie that would have tripled it made triple profit basically. But I'll say this about the 3-hour runtime. Maybe it's a good idea because it is summer, it is heating up, and to be in a building that's air conditioned.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that wasn't the factor that was not one of the factors of releasing it during the summer.
Sure. And I'm sure it can be a deterrent for most people, right? 3 hours, that's a long time for me. But we're also talking about Chris Nolan. And we all know Chris Nolan has a fan base that will always support. He has a great reputation amongst film goers. So I think the movie is going to do well. It's not going to do Barbie numbers at all.
No, but I don't think there was an expectation it would.
Right, at all. But I believe it's going to do well.